Okay, let's call this to order. 1 o'clock. It has been suggested by Ashley that at each meeting, any participant in the meeting who has a conflict of interest should declare whether they have one or not.
Every meeting?
That puts at every meeting. This is the current advice from council. So that we would like to have each member declare if they have conflicts. So why don't we start off with our Zoom friends. Greg Allen, do you have any conflicts of interest with any of the participants and applicants?
No conflict.
Greg Swedenborg?
No conflicts.
Steve Sinkler?
I am hosting, I am a host location for Savor Cannon Beach. Their Saturday winemaker events. That would be my only potential, but I'm not part of the organization. So other than that, no conflicts.
Appreciate the disclosure and the statement of no conflicts.
Oh, real quick, can we just have you state also that you're able to make impartial decisions?
Yes, I am able to make impartial decisions about that event.
Julie Walker.
No conflicts.
Conflicts. For myself, I'm not sure about my impartiality. I do have a conflict of interest in the applications that have come from the Cannon Beach Gallery Group. Other than that, I think I can make unbiased, impartial decisions. I think that concludes the group in attendance. So I'd like to move on. Our packets were available. I'd like to see if we have corrections or approval of the minutes from June 14th, 15th, and June 28th meetings.
I didn't see anything.
Just one comment from the June 15th meeting that I see here on page 1 in the bottom paragraph. I think it should be clarified. Julie was had asked a question about the participants in the event, the We Players, the Shakespearean group, participating in street theater, about the duration of the commitment to them, if it was going to be multi-days or not. And I think where it's viewed as adding the participants in events that'll take place, including a dinner, that is actually a reference to the We Players. Is that correct, Julie?
I don't remember asking that question.
Oh.
I'm looking all of that.
You pointed out that they were being contracted for the weekend, multi-days.
Okay, yes, I see that. That was, okay, yes, that was for multi-days. That was my question.
Yeah.
About the We Players, not anything else.
Right.
I can change them to the We Players.
Yeah, there you go.
Good. I think that clarifies. I like the clarity of points that were discussed in these minutes. So I'd just like to thank our the writer of these for the very accurate depiction of what was discussed and who discussed what. Are there any corrections that anyone else has seen that might be needed to be made? Then Is there a motion to accept the meetings?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the 14th, the 15th. And what was the other one? Oh, and June 28th.
Actually, the dates are 14th, 15th, yes, all
28th.
three.
Yeah.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That sounded unanimous. Okay. We're moving on to a review of final evaluations. In the packet, we've got final evaluations. We'd asked for further information from the chamber and an evaluation from the Arts Association. And there's an evaluation regarding Stormy Weather Arts Festival from the gallery group in this group. That first one up is a breakdown of finances from the Stormy Weather Arts Festival participation by the Cannon Beach Gallery Group. That final stated 5/31/21 and is in this current packet.
The only question I have on that one is it says they've spent 31,372 of the, oh, never mind. They've spent all of the grant. Yeah, I thought it was the other way around and if they were returning money to us, but that's not the case, sorry.
Not from the Stormy Weather Arts Festival.
No, I was talking about Lila.
Yes,
I'm going in order.
sure. Oh, packet may be in a different order.
Lila's is a very short one, so I wonder if you just got stuck.
Maybe I missed it.
Should be the first one after the minutes.
Oh. Ah, you're right. I'm wrong.
I didn't have any issues with the plan.
Yeah. I had no particular issues or questions with that final. I was glad to see that it was here from the Cannon Beach Arts Association. I think we should go through and see if there are any problems with any of these to see if we need further clarification, and then maybe entertain a motion to accept them either en masse or with whatever exceptions we might find in discussion. Is there any other discussion than Julie's comment about the Arts Association, Lila Wickham's project summary?
I just had a question on the, in the budget portion in section 3, where we have spent 31,000 of our allotted 24,000. Is that
Right.
accurate or am I missing something?
I don't think you're missing anything.
In other words, they spent their grant application and I guess they're making up the difference themselves.
Themselves, okay, okay.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to the evaluations for the digital and social media marketing package for the Cannon Beach Gallery Group, where the evaluator was myself. There's an attachment breakdown of, where'd that go? It's not in here. Oh, yeah, the total program grant. Any questions or challenges?
No questions on my end.
Okay.
Nope, seems pretty straightforward.
How about the
Yep.
Stormy Weather Arts Festival? Effectively, we had spent the entirety of that budget and
No questions from me?
okay. And the next one in line is our chamber event tourism video production. Jim Pano giving the evaluation. I have the breakdown of the expenditures for coverage of like 5 different events in here. 4 events and YouTube marketing. Many of these are in progress, in production, near completion.
It looks like we're getting $1,114 back since they're under budget.
They did submit a refund, money back.
They did. Okay, great.
I think there were several, I can't remember what the check, it had several line items from events that he returned money on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Glad to see the accounting for unused funds and those being returned.
I don't have any questions on that one.
Okay. And yeah, move on to the Fat Bike Festival. It looks as though that would have been one of the line items in the chamber check is they seem to have had to modify some of their plans and they had TAC funding of 14,471.
I just pulled up an email from when he returned the money. So the chamber video, he returned $1,114 and Fat Bike, he returned $819.38.
Ah, good.
Gotcha.
I think this establishes a pretty good operational precedent going forward, because so many of the plans are aspirational and budgets that are projected in the future without knowing exact expenses. I like seeing those things restored to the TAC fund. I assume that's what the city is doing with them.
It goes right back into TAC money.
Okay. And then we have the Culinary Fest, whose the timing is put off until March 4 through 6 in 2022. So that's one where, once again, we have a budget projected forward, but no accounting of expenses as yet. It's not actually a final, well, it's a final for the
For that year.
application,
Right.
prior application, where we had questioned the amount of funding there and the additional funds being added.
It does say that most of the money they were given is still in the savings account. I think they spent some on Tracy and that's about it. Which makes sense because there's nothing to spend money on yet except for the event planner.
Right, right. So at least we have the paper trail of all these transactions to come up when their actual midterm, well, actually their midterm will happen at about the time of, just after their event has occurred,
Yep.
March. So we'll be able to follow up on that. The next final report is the Tolavana Hall Capital Improvement Renovations. where they were surprised by some of the change, but were able to still pretty much complete that project. You know, the price changed on them in mid-course.
I turned off.
So I think we've received the finals that were outstanding. And unless there are objections, could we entertain a motion to accept them as submitted and completing their obligations?
I'll do it again. I recommend that we, sorry, I've only had one cup of coffee today. I recommend that we go ahead and accept all these final reports as written.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Okay, we have two other items. This next one involves discussing if the TAF goals are appropriately set, if there's a committee notion of things that we need to address in terms of the direction of the whole TAF funding, or how the committee operates, or anything in our relationship to the intent of the city and the function of this committee. Also involving, suggestions and concerns. One of the things that comes to my mind, we've posed questions about the limitations on the amount of funding we can grant and whether or not we can generate ideas ourselves here, or if we need an applicant within the process to generate other ideas. Is there any input the committee has to address our relationship to the city?
I don't know if that was a concern or not when we brought up the two issues before, when we offered to give them some money to help them buy the school building, and then the band sound thing.
Mhm.
They didn't seem to have an issue with it, that we were able to do that. I'm not sure they might have an issue if we came up with a whole idea for an event, but.
Well, and of course, one of the things that we suggested doing here was a chamber request and proposal to help replace signs
Right.
on the highway. And our committee definitely got on board with that, to suggest to the council to take a look at that. And apparently they approved our funding in that amount that the committee put forward, which is probably a partial, but at least getting that action started.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of make a comment on that. That I was very in favor of the bandstand situation a year ago. And
Yep.
I awarded the sign thing pretty high this year. And I don't have our charter right in front of us, but the idea of not necessarily doing just events, but things that improve the product of visiting Cannon Beach. I definitely think that should be highlighted in our radar. And as we've seen over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, our off season has shrunk. So as we look at dates, I personally go by October 21st, or the third weekend in October, till about March, with the exception of holidays. I know in every business it's a little bit different, but kind of taking a look at, what are our dates for the shoulder season, and what are the things that we can do that are not necessarily events that bring people to town, but the things that allow them to have a better or more pleasing time while they're here. So.
Greg, I understand your thought about the shoulder season. My concern with if we made any changes to what is, summer versus shoulder off season, then we start to have a smaller calendar period where we're going to ask events to kind of stack on top of each other or closer together if we kind of decrease the time that we want events to be. That's my only thought.
That's a good
Yeah, no,
thought.
I can completely, sorry, that's why I'm not here in person. A little under the weather. I can completely understand that. But I also can see that, if we're putting out 30 some odd $1,000 for an event on a weekend that's going to be packed anyway, would it make more sense to have two smaller events in the off season to bring people in? I don't know. That's just something I would think about.
Sure, that's understandable. That's fair.
Well, then, Greg, your first point you were raising had to do with improving the quality of the product of experiencing Cannon Beach. And maybe is that more important even than the dates? Even if it
Yeah,
is
I mean, they
during the
are two
summer?
separate things to me.
Yeah.
I think if we were to bring, not just us as a committee, but if people were to come to us, there's a whole list of things that these public funds could be used for that improve things, not only for visitors, but for the citizens alike, or different things that could be used. The bandstand was a great example of that. And over time, we'll get more of those from people or this committee, and having the ability to say, and I'm sorry, I thought the chamber sign thing was a good example of this as well, of something that kind of gets kicked down the road, put on the back burner for years and years because it doesn't really find a place to get funded. But it's a good thing to address. So, if we have a mechanism for calling those out, for not kind of getting into the argument of, well, is this arts related? Is this, that related? No, it's not. It's a piece of infrastructure, but that piece of infrastructure is important to the community and could be valuable if used correctly, or could be used by these funds rather than, city general fund dollars, if it makes sense because it also promotes tourism. That's kind of what I think about when I make that comment.
So would you suggest then, Greg, so the events would impact, if you were going to hold fast to the hardcore shoulder seasons, would be the cottage tour and probably Get Lit in the current thing that we have right now? You're not suggesting not funding those, are you?
No, I'm not doing that right now. I'm saying that I think we need to be aware of what it looks like as we go down in the next year, the year after that, and so forth. That, we kind of keep an eye on, September. I personally, and retail might be differently, restaurants might be different, but I think September is almost as busy as August. A little different clientele because the families move out and the empty nesters and so forth, are the couples that are traveling. But the feet on the street, the people that are heads in beds, people eating meals, the volume seems to be very similar. And does it make sense, especially in September, to do that? Which, unfortunately, yeah, I guess I would be calling out the cottage tours in that particular one. I'm not saying let's not fund them. I'm not saying that it's not a great event. It's just, is that, as time goes on, if our shoulder season changes, does that change, how we should look at things?
Okay.
My personal biases are to lean heavily in favor of anything at any time of the year that we think would improve the quality of experience in town as a way to assure that people enjoy Cannon Beach and come for whatever events might be promoted either by the city or by individual businesses, just because they have fond memories of town. And maybe I think part of the role of this TAC committee would be to support ideas that do that, and then let the city council sort things out on the shoulder season or target seasons, because that is a policy that's heavily weighted just toward one aspect of town, which is lodging, in my personal perspective. And I think that's only part of our equation.
Well, ultimately, they have the final decision on it anyway. We're only making recommendations, so.
That's true, but within the directives that they do give us.
We still need.
May I make a,
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, please.
okay. Experiences. I've noticed there's a lot of families come to town. And what we lack, I think, a little bit is maintenance on the children's play equipment in the park. It's in need of repairs. And I think that could also, add to some enjoyment and having a little, maybe even possibly a little larger, because at times I see it's overcrowded. So it's just something I'd like to throw on the table.
That might be the sort of thing we would definitely call to the city's attention, though probably Parks and Rec budget might be the appropriate place. But I think it is in our place to call those things definitely to the attention of the city, saying this does influence that experience in town. So I think we
Absolutely
can.
does.
In fact, it might be helpful to the city council if we had any areas of concern that the committee would have for city consideration that are tacked on as an addendum to our communications about the actual applicants, because I think we could put input into that conversation and it may generate an applicant in the future if there's something in the public record of the committee saying this is a possible area. I don't know if I'm going to end up pushing my personal preferences too far for those things, but that's something I would consider for the committee to take a stand on for or against it at some time in the future. Not asking for one right now, but just raising the issue for future conversation.
I think it's up for chat, at least, consider it.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to bring more families in, the empty nesters and things like that. They pay the bills as well. But as a parent myself, I throw a lot of money at my kids, and their enjoyment. So I think it's something that would definitely be great.
Well, we wanted to have this discussion, a little time for input for committee members to talk about whether or not we had suggestions to pass on to the city or not.
You want to add something?
Well, there's someone from the city here now. Yeah, Bruce.
Hi, for the record, Bruce St. Dennis, City Manager. I like what you're talking about, and my suggestion would be that you don't hold back if you have any suggestions on this kind of thing, because you probably study it more than anybody else does. But I would probably, we'll go back to the electrical work at the bandstand. It came up, we looked at it, we found a way to address it, and we did it. So I would say that as they come up, You can do it in an email, probably from the chair, to council, copy me on it. And then, we can go ahead and take a look at those things. Don't know exactly what route they might end up. They might go to the Parks Committee. There might be something that, staff just goes ahead and looks at as far as getting prices if we're talking about the playground, but, the more ideas we got, the better we're going to be. The better we can work together, the better we're going to be.
I agree.
I'm thinking we may ask for that kind of input or good of the order input at each meeting so that committee members can throw an idea into the hat.
Yeah.
And keep it as part of a regular event at each meeting.
Yeah. Now, I'm not asking that we get 10 ideas that we have to explore before the next meeting. I'm saying if there is one that is something's like, hey, maybe this is something that really be a game changer. We'll take the time to go ahead and look at it. Some of them, we just might have to wait until next budget year.
Right.
But I'm not asking to be overwhelmed, but would welcome the good ideas.
It seems like it's a similar thing to the bandstand, which is like, hey, have you guys thought about, I don't even look at that because obviously I don't have kids and I don't walk around the playground area. So
Yeah.
someone with kids would probably have a more interesting thing to say about it, but hey, has anybody noticed this? And it might be worth somebody taking a look at it.
Yeah.
Not sure it's in under our guise, but can make a suggestion.
It's not under the guidelines the way I read them, but I think we can create that as a potential impact from the committee and try to make the committee perhaps more active in that role. And if it's not appropriate from the committee, then we can do it individually.
Yeah. And Greg, so that I've already emailed Karen. So that's
Good.
again, if something good comes out, we'll just go ahead and we'll get it moving.
I remembered photographing playground equipment up in Leavenworth, Washington. They have a park down along the creek bed, a long walk down there, and the playground equipment was just beautiful.
Yep.
Very safe, and they obviously put a good investment into that and created a very family friendly area.
I worked in a place that probably had the best idea for evaluating playgrounds. They took a bunch of kids. They took a bunch of kids to different playgrounds, watched them, saw what they spent time on, got their feedback.
Yep.
And they put together a playground we would never have thought to do. And what was funny? There was no swings. It was like,
Oh, swings.
no, they had all these other things that, it was really, agility, stuff like that. It was pretty fun. Yeah.
Swings are more exclusive because there's only one person at a
So you know what? There were swings, but it was not part of the complex. They were over to the side, but just good stuff. And I thought, wow, that's pretty genius to go ahead and figure that out.
Okay, so yeah.
But it lacks, another thing that it lacks is special needs. Most of these other newer parks I'm seeing have something for special needs kids as well. And I think that needs to be addressed. We've gone as far as to get the sand chairs out there for mobility. I think there's something needs to be addressed there as special needs kids.
All right.
That's a good suggestion, Greg. We'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess in the back of all of our brains, keep this, ideas turning over and bring any to meetings that you think need consideration by the city.
The only thing I have is that we need one more person on this committee. So if you guys have any ideas, make sure to mention it to people and talk to Jennifer about getting an application.
Will do.
Okay, we also need to select a date for our March TAC meeting. It's a meeting where we actually will have to set part of the timeline and choose new officers. I'm going to end up here as a lame duck because my tenure ends next summer in June. But we have a March meeting to make some decisions.
What days will work for this room, Jennifer?
If you guys like to meet in the afternoons, so pretty much every afternoon is available because the other committees that meet during the week are in the morning. And that's on Tuesday and Thursday and only 1 week of the month. So you guys tend to do afternoons. So it's kind of up to you guys. I mean, Wednesday, the 23rd would not be the greatest because of court for some reason ran late, but
I prefer earlier, so we're not in the middle of spring break, if that's at all possible, like the 7th and 8th or the 14, 15.
I'd agree with that.
Yep,
I would
either
agree.
one of those would work.
and it's all available. So
Any of those a problem for you, Jim?
Oh, no. The whole world's a problem for me. I will just adjust. If this committee has a number of people who can get there, I'll be there.
Greg Allen, is there any day that doesn't
Yeah.
work for you?
No, I will make it happen.
Okay.
Choice of day of the week is what it looks like it's coming down to.
So that's a Monday or Tuesday, either the 7th and 8th, or Monday or Tuesday, the 14th and 15th.
All good for me. Earlier.
Let's do it on the 7th.
Okay, so we'll do March 7th at 1 PM.
Yeah.
Does that suit the committee? We're all up
Works
for
for me.
that? Okay,
Cool. Excellent.
at 1 PM?
And
Okay,
Jennifer will follow up else on confirmation, correct?
yes.
Yeah, I'll send an email.
Wonderful.
Okay, is there anything for the good of the order?
I'd like to add one more thing.
Yes,
I'd like to identify some more accurate metrics. It's going to take some conversation, but I think in order for us to be productive in the future and make sure the money is spent appropriately and not wasted, I think we should have some form of metrics to see what we're getting for the money.
What would you suggest aside from our current heads in beds?
Well, I mean, well, yeah, you know, it's open for discussion, but I mean, you know, as a previous contractor, when I have my budgets and schedules, I basically have every line item figured out, what it's going to cost, how many are going to show, how many pieces I need. There has to be some kind of methodology that we can come up with, I think, if we put our heads together to maybe identify those a little bit more accurately.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Greg. That's why, several years ago, I started working on that spreadsheet that has those different metrics, number of attendees, cost per attendee. So we could see trending as well. Was this a growing event? Was this a dying event? How efficient with the money are they? Those types of things.
Yeah, I don't want to interfere with anybody's business, but however, I mean, even with what they're spending, expenditures, food, we know how much an average person's going to eat. You know what I mean? So if we know the total numbers of those items supplied, we might be able to have our own little metric that we can use, based on consumption, I think. I mean, there's a multitude of ways to figure this.
So can I throw out, if anyone has any suggestions, feel free to email them to me so I can put them in the packet for the March meeting and we can look at them. Okay.
Great.
Works.
if there's no further discussion, I think we can call the meeting to an end.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.